Good to go.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to today's discussion on how to become a data-driven educational institution. My name is Zach Kunkel, and I am on the SchoolDude marketing team. Just to run through today's agenda, we're going to give an overview of our report, the Educational Operations Health Index. Going to run through the value of KPIs, what they offer, what they don't, how we see them as valuable. And then our local apps engineer, Keith, is going to take us through our maintenance solution and our business intelligence solution. And then at the end, we're going to wrap up and have a little Q&A, maybe just one or two questions. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Keith. He is, as I said, our applications engineer and a Boston native. Go Sox. His role here at SchoolDude is to give a consultative approach to educational institutions on how to maximize the value of their maintenance and operations teams. He is certified on all the SchoolDude solutions and has the business values for those solutions for educational institutions. He has also been working here for 3 years. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Keith.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you very much, Zach. And yeah, really what we're going to focus on today is the Education Operations Index. Now, with this health index, what we're going to be focusing on is really a compilation of data that we've gathered from educational professionals and SchoolDude's database. We're aiming to lay out the current landscape of the educational industry. So what we did here is we have some we focused on indices that align with our products, services, and really where you'll see some of these focus align are with preventative maintenance, deferred maintenance, community usage, and that's going to be usage of facilities, technology management, energy management, and of course, safety. Now, the people that we talked to with this survey, the folks that we've reached out to, is largely peer-led. So really what we're seeing, this was filled out by more than 200 education leaders across the country. Now this ranged from anywhere from public K through 12, private institutions, 4-year universities, and 2-year colleges. The compilation of this data is from your peers, right? So it's from your peers and for your peers. Now, the reason that we did this, for starters, was it gives those in education an opportunity to see how their school stacks up with others across the nation. It also allows them to see what other schools are facing straight from the source, which we hope provides a sense of solidarity and will actually enable leaders to learn from one another. Now, lastly, and possibly the most importantly, would be the data. So the Operations Health Index is rich with information that allows leaders to see where they are and where they want to go. Now, within our methodology, we focused on a database that, again, is full of client-rich data, anywhere from work orders, preventative maintenance work, IT help desk and asset management, capital planning, energy management, and facility usage. Now, again, when we say we mined our database, that is consisting of over 7,000 educational institutions over the course of 17 years. So all that data is compiled from a lot of information. Now, when we talk about the health of education operations, you can see that the Composite Operations Index score was a 55.6. Now, this is an overall indicator of the health of the operations in the education sector. So in addition to this main composite index, there's 6 supporting indices that cover major areas of operations. So again, like we mentioned earlier, some of the places we're going to discuss would be preventative maintenance, deferred maintenance, energy usage, facility usage, and things of that nature. Now, the scores are based on a combination of SchoolDude's vast data from educational institutions. So what we're going to look at would be, again, some answers from that 23-question survey that reflects the sentiments of operation leaders. So the score here is not overly optimistic or negative. The data that we're looking at would result in some of the trends that we've taken a peek at, which would be positive in some areas and negative in the others. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of these supporting indexes, and we're going to talk a little bit about preventative maintenance to start out. And this score would indicate that we do have a lot of work ahead of us to improve school operations, but it's important to remember that half of the battle is just getting this stuff on a map so we know where to go and we know what to improve. Now, in the first place, the supporting index that we're going to talk about first would be preventative maintenance. As we look at this, school operations definitely value the importance of PM, but it looks like the PM and preventative maintenance measures are still below the recommended 30% of total time. So when you see here from 2016 and 2017, it looks like about a small percentage raise in that year. Now, again, you want to have about 30% of your total time focused on preventative maintenance work. So while that reactive ratio is low, some of the positives that we're taking away from this are, only 5% of the organizations are doing less preventative maintenance work this year than last year. Over 60% feel preventative maintenance work improves the learning environment a great deal. And 86% think there's a strong correlation between preventative maintenance programs and wise use of taxpayer dollars. So again, while operations leaders understand the importance of this information, they need help better implementing strong, sustainable programs to reach that 30% total time being dedicated to preventative maintenance. Now, when we talk about deferred maintenance, again, you can see the average facility age for public K through 12 is 38 years, where in higher ed, it's about 42 years. So obviously, both sectors in both K through 12 and higher ed are facing an aging infrastructure. Typically, what we see here is, on average, both of these facilities are actually about to enter their 5th decade of service. So when we talk about overdue needs and deferred maintenance, we're going to see an increase in those for sure as a result. For our supporting indexes, deferred maintenance, again, you're going to be able to see 57% was the score. So overdue needs have increased 18%. In 2013 State of Our School report, $5,450 per student in overdue needs, and in 2017, $6,642 per student in overdue needs. So over 57% of the respondents allocated less than 3% of their budget to deferred maintenance and capital needs. Again, the recommended percentage of budget set aside for these types of projects is 3% annually. So when we talk about majority of those respondents being less than 3%, even further than that, it was 26% that were unsure how much to set aside. So again, it goes back to actually utilizing this data to figure out a roadmap and understand where we can go and where we should go with this information. When we talk about community use of facilities, 64.8%, right? So respondents have not seen high deterioration of their facilities from after hours use. Now, when we look at that 91% of respondents renting the same or more of their facilities to outside groups, of course, that is going to change, right? So we're going to see some deterioration the more events that we see within these organizations. Now, 40% of schools using SchoolDude are recovering costs. So it really is a natural progression when you start to talk about the deterioration of your facilities and actually having a plan in place to recover costs, to actually put some of those funds back into the organization, or at least put some of those funds back into having the ability to again, make some money for the organization to accrue costs that might have been spent in deteriorating the facilities. The next stop would be energy. So there's slightly positive outlook on energy management. 82% energy budgets that have stayed at least the same from last year. Now, when we talk about energy, energy is the second highest budget item behind labor and pay. So there's a huge opportunity there for budget savings. Less than 20% of respondents had energy spend increase since last year. And some of the reasons for energy budget stagnation and smaller number of schools seeing increases might be, Many of the organizations now offer special subsidies and awards for buildings that adhere to energy conservation, as well as utility companies lowering costs, causing stabilization in energy budgets. So again, energy costs are slightly decreasing and energy usage is remaining fairly steady. Now, the next stop would be KPIs. So we wanted to talk a little bit about the value of KPIs, but we realized that some folks might not even know what KPIs are. Some folks are utilizing KPIs to make business decisions, and some folks maybe just need a refresher course. So with KPIs, or key performance indicators, we look to them to help us with telling our vital signs. How are we stacking up to others? Where can we benchmark ourselves to other organizations that are similar to us across the country? What areas do I need to pay attention to? Where am I on this benchmark? Am I with the top 20%? Am I at least the median, or am I in the low range for what I'm doing? And what is possible if we improve our key performance indicators? If we improve in these areas, where can we go? We're going to talk a little bit about that today. Some of the things that KPIs cannot do, just to give you an idea, is, alone, they're not the answer, right? So a lot of times these things can lead to the answer, but they're not the whole picture if you use them alone. They can't tell you who is best, right? Because there's so many other variables that would go into that. But they can help you see where you are amongst the best. As we continue down, right, it's not going to tell them how you did things. It's not going to tell you how you're performing or, how you did this work specifically, but it can give you ideas, where you're performing the best, how you're performing compared to others, how you're performing compared to how you were last year. And again, this is stuff that we're going to dive into in a little bit more detail. So a couple of the challenges that KPIs can assist you in solving would be lack of context, having too many assumptions, or having no evidence. So with lack of context, of course, maybe in an example, you can't set goals because you don't have a standard to base them off of. Well, key performance indicators can give you that standard. Maybe you have to make difficult budget and resource decisions based off assumptions right now. Well, when you look at the numbers and you look at your data, that's going to give you an accurate indication of where maybe you should allocate those resources or allocate that budget. And lastly, with no evidence, maybe it's difficult to document efficiency over time, or you're looking for more ways to keep your team motivated. Well, all of a sudden, if you find a report that's telling you exactly how great everyone's performing, and it shows you, hey, all these work orders are completed in record time, when we're benchmarked to our peers, you can see that we are close to that top 20%. And last year, we were at the peer low. Well, look how well we did in this past year. Imagine if we keep going where we'll be. So it really paints a picture of where you are, where you can go, and exactly what you're doing to prove that that work has been done. So, of course, some of the values of these key performance indicators, and we're going to jump into a little presentation of our solution and our tool that deals with this stuff, and that's called Dude Intelligence. But before we get there, we'll walk through some of these values, right? So you're going to have the ability to compare. So you'll be able to see where you stand, know where you are now and where you can be. You'll have the ability to set goals. Understand your progress, again, by comparing yourself to your peers. And be a part of a community working to make their schools better every day. With KPIs, you have the ability to analyze your data, so you can stop guessing. Now the decisions that you make are not based off of assumptions. You've got the ability to actually make data-driven decisions. So you can feel more confident in the steps that you're taking, isolate problems, and test solutions for impact. And then, again, make investments in the areas with the greatest need and maximize those savings long-term, because now you know where you're doing great and where you need to improve. So you can efficiently make those decisions. The last one being prove. So this is where you're going to show your progress. You're going to show the difference that you and your team can make. You'll see the accomplishments in front of your own eyes. You have the ability to protect your team and promote their hard work. In some organizations that we work with, they're utilizing it to bring on new staff. So, hey, we had 3 technicians on staff. Well, guess what? The nearest district is, maybe 50 or 60 work orders shy of us per quarter, and they've got 2 extra technicians. Look how well we're doing right now. Maybe we have the ability to bring on a new staff member. And then lastly, you have the ability to make a compelling case for more resources. So it kind of bridges off what I just said there, but that's some of the value of key performance indicators. Now, as we move through this, we're going to talk a little bit more about Maintenance Essentials Pro. I'm going to give you a quick background of who we are here at SchoolDude, and then we'll jump in. Now, the value of KPIs, again, give you the ability to set standards, stop guessing, and show progress. And we'll get into some of the details and some of the ideas that you can access when we're in that Dude Intelligence solution. But for now, we're going to bump forward and talk a little bit about SchoolDude and get into the Maintenance Essentials Pro presentation. So with SchoolDude, we are the world's largest educational database. We're currently catering to over 6,000 educational institutions, which equates to about 37 million students worldwide. Now, when you're looking at this map, of course, you can see a lot of other organizations that are utilizing SchoolDude, but it doesn't show you the data specifically that we, in 2016 alone, closed out 15.7 million work orders, 2.8 million IT tickets, had 6.5 million events run through our systems, and you can see we've managed 1.5 billion utility expenses. So you're not alone with the Dude Nation. In most cases, you'd be able to throw a rock and hit another user, and that's just how we like it. We want to keep growing with the organizations that we serve, and we always welcome new users. So again, today we're going to focus on the ability our Maintenance Essentials Pro has to transform your organization. But Maintenance Essentials Pro is one of the great solutions we offer. As you can see here, we've got facility usage suites, energy suite, technology management, even safety. And every single solution that you see here is actually priced out a la carte. So you can really pick and choose which ones will work best for the organization. Alongside some of these great solutions would be the services that we offer. And some of those examples would include data collection, where we can go around your campus and pull in data and build out these solutions for you. PM first steps, facility condition assessments, and preventative maintenance schedule creation. Now, all of these different services are primarily designed to get you up to speed and ready to work within our platform, as well as offer some of the training that's tailored specifically to your workforce's needs. Now, when we talk about some of these details, you'll see a little bit more of a deep dive into the professional services here, where we have things like customized reports, PM implementation help, equipment data gathering, overall PM implementation, and then the full picture, which would allow you to have the data gathering, condition assessments, and a narrative report, where we'll actually come on campus and we will do a facility condition assessment through one of our partnering engineering firms. We'll have that data built out and populated into our Capital Forecast Direct solution, which would allow you to have an idea of where you need to go moving forward. You're going to understand your capital plans and capital projects a lot closer than maybe you ever have before. And now you'll have a picture that's painted over the next 30 years of where you need to go and what you need to do to ensure your facility's conditions remain intact. Now, again, today we're going to talk about Maintenance Essentials Pro as well as Dude Intelligence. And what we're going to focus on here would be the ability to walk through requests, receive them on the administrative side, delegate the work out for repair, but along the while having the communication open throughout the organization. Now, a lot of the organizations that we work with report back to us, and before they started with us, they might have had no way to make a request, or they might have had a paper process in place, or the communication just wasn't there. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to create a solution that fully encompassed all of their needs. So you start out with a request, right? And anybody can make a request. You can open that up to as many folks as you need to. From there, that request is going to be routed to an approver. Now you can customize and configure your routing rules however you'd like, whether it's based off of site admins, principals, anybody that needs to be in this process can be in this process. Once this is approved, it's going to be routed out for repair. So it'll be assigned to a technician who can actually take this and repair it. And all the while, it's going to communicate those changes back to the requester. So it keeps an open line of communication between that requester and the administrators and, of course, technicians, so they know what's going on, they know when their work's done, and it really narrows down on that perception gap and helps folks understand how busy you actually are within the maintenance department. So I'm going to go ahead and share out my screen here. We should be able to see this populate in just a moment. And we'll be looking at our Maintenance Essentials Pro solution. And again, this will be opening in just a minute. So starting out here, we're going to take a peek at the maintenance suite. Starting on the request page, you can see this here. What we're looking at would be that welcome message up top that you can customize. And as we scroll through here, you'll see steps 1 all the way down to 6. Now in that first step, it's very, very easy. All they're doing is telling us who they are. And like I mentioned, with maintenance, you can open this up to as many folks as you need to. So anybody that you need to make requests, you could absolutely give them the ability. In step 1, they're telling us their name and their basic information. Step 2, they're going to tell us where they're located. In step 3, they're going to tell us what type of problem they're running into. Now, I always like to mention that during implementation, we're going to give you assistance in getting these locations built out into the system. And you'll be able to really get granular with the information that you include. From the problem types, we have over 300 of these to choose from. We often recommend putting about 10 to 20 on the home page. But all you have to do is select the type of issue you're having, and that user can scroll down to the bottom and tell us a little bit more detail. So they might say, if they select electrical work, hey, well, lights are out in the classroom. When they submit this, it's routed over for approval, and we know that that's been taken care of. Now, again, just to kind of reiterate, step 1 is very easy. They're just telling us who they are. Step 2, they're selecting where they're located. Step 3, they're going to choose from one of our maintenance-specific icons and tell us what kind of problem they're having. Step 4, they're going to type in a brief description, and we also give them the ability to attach a file. But from here, all you've got to do is simply hit submit, and this is going to be routed over to the administrator of our choosing. And all those routing rules will be configured before you're up and running with the solution. But as a requester, now I have the ability to see the status, the work order ID, the area and area number, location and description, action taken notes, who it's been assigned to. And once that work is completed, it'll populate a completion date on the right-hand side. But that's really as easy as that request process is. So once the request is done, been submitted, we've seen the history of our requests, it's routed over to an administrator. Now, the person on the administrative side of things has a much cleaner dashboard view, right? So it's much more of a deep dive for them. They're able to see all the different statuses of their requests, the totals, and all that you've got to do here is simply jump into your new requests to manage them. When we click into this, we're able to see all of our unprocessed new requests in this dropdown. When we've selected the one that we want to work on, we continue to scroll down here. And all that we have to do is simply assign our technician. So we've assigned Ricky Bobby Jr. We scroll down to the bottom and we hit submit. And this will be routed directly to that technician. Now, of course, we can get very detailed here and we can add in crafts, priorities, equipment. We can add in project IDs. So for instance, if this project is related to snow removal, we can click in, select snow removal by clicking through the binoculars, and it would attach that project ID. Now, when we submit this, it's routed to our technician, and they're going to be able to jump into the system and actually view very easily that work order request. So there they can see statuses, priorities, locations, deferral information, contact information of the requester, assignment information, and then in budget information, they'll have, again, those purpose codes, budget codes, project IDs, equipment lists where you can actually tie in equipment that you've been working on. Now, this gives you a couple steps further after you do tie in the equipment. Now you've got the ability to go back and report on that equipment and find out how many dollars you've spent on that equipment or how many work orders have been associated with it. Further painting a picture of, hey, do we need to replace this equipment? Is it worth replacing? Or should we continue to repair it? We do have the message center where folks can actually send messages directly to the requester and vice versa. With transactions, you're able to track labor transactions, issue transactions, and purchase transactions. And then with file attachments, you can upload those files or see the files that have been previously uploaded by the requester. So it's very straightforward, and you get access to that full system. Again, once that technician is done, they get to scroll up here. All they have to do is mark this work order closed and hit save, and that work is completed. Now, the next stop would be to jump into our preventative maintenance portion. And over here on the right-hand side, you'll see a yellow box that would represent preventative maintenance work. Now, typically with the organizations we work with, they might be coming from another solution offering preventative maintenance. They might have paper plans, or preventative maintenance might just be marked off on a calendar. But what we do is we give you the ability to build out a schedule. So it starts to really build out on that accountability factor. And it has a lot of information that becomes very effective. Now, as you see, this is our summary list of preventative maintenance work. When we click into an ID here, I'm just going to go ahead and show you an example of what this looks like. But we've got that work order. It's very similar to the work order that we just walked through. The yellow background is going to be the visual identifier. As we continue down the list, it's very familiar and it's very identical to what we had just walked through again. The really unique part of this solution for the preventative maintenance side would be our PM schedule. And this is where you can actually configure a schedule and set up all the details associated with this preventative maintenance work. Now at the top here, we've got our PM schedule, the title of the work. We can see our startup procedures. As we continue down the line, you've got safety points and tasks and procedures. In the tasks and procedures, you can actually give your technicians specific information or step-by-step instructions on actually how to do the work. Now, continuing down the line, you'll see equipment, tools, or parts necessary for the job. But really what I want to show you here on the preventative maintenance portion of things would be that PM schedule. Now, the PM schedule has 18 steps that we can walk through. We can configure all 18 of them, or we can keep it basic and just do a couple. But it's going to include things like title or classifications, type, manufacturer information, location information, right? There's a lot of unique things that you can configure here. But the most important probably is going to be frequency. And this is where you really define the pattern for these work orders. So what we can say here is, recurrence pattern. We're going to go ahead and select every Wednesday, once a week. So every week we want this work order going out on Wednesday. Now what's neat is you have the ability to get as crazy as you want here. So if you have work orders that are going out every 5th month, the first Monday of every 5th month, you could do that. And then you set the range of recurrence. So you know that it starts on the 19th of May and it continues forever. If you wanted to end it after a certain amount of occurrences, you have the ability to do that too. So there's a lot of different options to kind of look at and configure. I just wanted to show you the basics of it. Of course, you're going to be able to get very in-depth here. And that's something that you could definitely address in a private demonstration or through your account manager. Now, that's pretty much the maintenance solution in a nutshell. Again, there's a lot of other reports we could dive into and a lot of other deep dives we could do throughout the solution. but that's its basic functionality. Now, in discussing the intelligence tool and the Dude Intelligence portion of our solutions, that's what we're going to dive into next. And this is really where you'll find the most applicable key performance indicators for those solutions that we talked about. The first view you're going to get here would be a dashboard view, and this is going to show you your work order counts and your counts by assigned to. So that's going to show you exactly how many hours each technician has. Over here, we're going to be able to see our workload. So we can see Van Carter is doing the bulk of our work at the top. In electrical, he's got 546 work orders. In plumbing, he's got 307. Now, when we go down here and we see Larry Bird, you can see he's got 2 work orders, and it looks like 4 in plumbing. He's got 2 in branch wiring, I believe, and then 2 in general maintenance. So, you know, he's not doing much of the work. Most of the work's coming from Van Carter. And then, of course, costs associated by each assignee. So we can see that bulk of that money coming through the organization, whether it's for materials or work in labor hours, would be from Van Carter. Now at the bottom, we've got our employee utilization. We've got our percentage of work as it's assigned. And again, these are just some of the indicators based off of work as it's assigned. We do have multiple dashboards at the top where you can see locations, crafts, heat maps. One of the focuses for this specific conversation would be our Key Performance Indicators tab. And that's where we'll jump into the KPI discussion. Now, if you wanted a mix of all the data, we offer something called an executive overview or an executive summary. And that's where we'll actually generate a 38-page PowerPoint for you. In a matter of seconds, we'll take all of your data and we'll build that report out, and it will show you some of your key performance indicators. It'll show you how you stack up to other organizations. And it'll show you where you're spending the bulk of your money. Now, when we talk about the KPIs, you can see here, we've got a total number of work orders. We've got an estimated preventative maintenance scheduled for next year. You can see here, as we benchmark you to your values, your peer top 20, peer median, and peer low, you can see where you're doing excellent, where you could improve. And, you know, really, it's just giving you the ability to showcase where you are now. Now, as we scroll through here, you've got things like average work orders assigned per technician, hours spent on planned maintenance, percentage of completed work as an emergency. So one of the things that I always like to mention is as you start to increase on your preventative maintenance work orders and you start to decrease on reactive and emergency, you're going to see a very significant cost savings and return on investment. Now, ideally, this would be the number for everybody, but of course, within certain organizations, this number is going to be quite a bit higher. From there, we can talk about our total number of work orders per square foot, or things like student enrollment, where we get a good picture of where we are. So are we getting a lot more requests or a lot more work orders than other organizations of similar size? Not really. This looks like we're right in the median to low range. Now, what this does, not only can you use this as a motivator to your faculty and staff, but you can use this when you're going to board meetings or bringing this data to financial officers to secure more of a budget or a larger budget. Say you've got X amount of work orders coming through per year. You see that you're on the high end. Your guys and faculty members are, all as busy as they can be, and it makes sense to bring on another employee, but you need to secure the budget. Well, this gives you the power to do that. This is the numbers that back your data because this is your data. These are just a few of the examples that I wanted to show you today. I know we do have plenty more where that came from, but I wanted to kind of pass it back over. I know we're going to talk a little bit about some of the questions and answers we might have had for this call. I know I saw a couple of them had come through. One thing I do want to mention before we get there would be, Dude University is coming up in San Diego, so that's going to be March 18th to the 21st. Now, this is going to really be a fun event. I'm not sure if anyone's not familiar with Dude University, but if you aren't familiar with us, It's a conference that's really going to bring together operations professionals literally from across the country. We share best practices, industry standards, and it really gives you the ability to connect with your peers and get some hands-on training. We offer some roundtable discussions, classroom sessions, learning labs, and again, just by collaborating with peers and industry leaders, it's going to help you equip your organization with the necessary tools to make a difference. You don't have to be a Dude client to find value in this event. We definitely encourage anybody responsible for managing or maintaining facilities or operations to attend. So that's really all I had for you today. What I do want to do is kind of bounce back into the questions. I know we had a couple questions that came through, and I'd be happy to answer those now. So I'm going to kick it back over to Zach to see if any of these questions have come through.
Yeah, Keith, thanks so much. Great summary of our maintenance solution in Dude Intelligence. And as you said, did have a few questions come in. So I'm going to kick it off with the first one. As we were going through the ops index, a question came up in regards to energy. And the question is, if 84% of people are tracking their utility bills, what would you say the other 16% are doing?
All right, so typically we see clients that are really doing anything and everything. There's folks that are just going ahead and paying the bills. Some folks take them and input them into an Excel spreadsheet. Some folks let them pile up, and in some cases, there's folks that aren't paying them at all.
Awesome. Hopefully they're not paying them a lot. But awesome. The only other question I had come through, Keith, is how would you say most districts or campuses, schools, whatever the case may be, how would you say they're practically utilizing Dude Intelligence?
There's really a lot of ways in which Dude Intelligence is practically utilized, right? So most often it's to showcase how well an organization's performing or where you might find areas for improvement. When we talk about the benchmarking of your facilities and finding out, where you stand, that's definitely the first place that you want to start. And from there, you can operationalize it and really make a roadmap on where to go, right? So when we talk about using Dude Intelligence to understand where you are and where you need to be, it's very, very easy. Once we know where you start, we can start to make a picture based off of benchmarks, based off of other organizations that are out there doing things optimally currently on where to go. And that's by far probably the most practical utilization of Dude Intelligence, would just be finding out where you stand, how well you're performing, and then looking at it and finding out where you could be and how well you could be performing. Some people will use it as a motivator. Some people will use it to secure a larger budget, right? So there's a lot of options, but practically it's really just finding out where you are and where you can go.
Good deal. And that's all that came through on my screen. So I personally want to thank you guys for tuning in. Keith, thanks for hopping on, and thank you guys for just adding to the value of this discussion on how to become a more data-driven educational institution. So thanks again from SchoolDude and from us. I hope you have a great rest of the day.